Alright, all you music makers, video game players, and entertainers from all around the world, welcome to the 549th edition of Music Village. I am your host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing the best for the North, Southeast, and West that the world of music and games has to offer. And seeing the fact that we've reached the end of the first full week of this year of the fist, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special ice-cold Kung Fu Fighting Afternoon edition of Music Village. Because we kick things off with a very special 4-award edition of And the Award Goes To. And according to Colin the Maestro, these are all the nominees we were able to scrap together to mention for this month. Not bad! Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out some cool games from a planet far away from here and from the Steam Machine alike for another edition of the Friday Night Greenlight. Then we go from green directly into red with a very special Heat Ran Battle Royale edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. And I got a feeling we may have a special guest telling that one for that story. And Carl the Maestro said, yeah, he'll be there for it. All right? Also, besides that, we go ahead and find out what you independent artists got planned for this weekend for another edition of the Indie for the weekend, which is me giving you guys local concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before the evening traffic gets any worse, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the Up to Speed News, which is me giving you guys news stories from this week from, you guessed it, all around the world. I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, take off that Mr. Miyagi headband. You're not gonna need it just yet, cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your Friday afternoon/night, only here, right here on Music Village. So let's get this afternoon show started, folks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Music Village. And Carl and the Maestro brought something very interesting to my attention this past week while we're uploading shows to YouTube, which for those who haven't caught on yet, we are currently uploading all episodes throughout this entire year, including the big event that's going to be taking place next month on YouTube, as well as our Soundcloud pages and all the other pages that we upload to that are all named the same, with the exception of this one being VOO Agent 0012. But we may make a side page for Music Village Radio for all the stuff that we're going to upload over there too. I don't know. And Carl and the Maestro had an interesting idea that video game stories with footage might be uploaded with it as well too in the near future. Who knows? Who knows? But speaking of one of those big events, folks, and to wrap things into what's about to happen next, I think it's time for us to talk about a couple of the nominees that'll be featured for several awards that we have ready for you today from And the Award Goes To. And the first nominee for the awards we're going to mention for this week is none other than the Indie Story of the Year. which will feature stories that was mentioned throughout this entire year that will be presented at the Indie Awards, and some of our personal favorites that was voted by not only the PR department, but by viewers like you. Yeah, we had to go PBS with it. First up, we have not one, but two separate stories from Elmo. Not only getting beaten up on stage by the actor from Shameless, but also running into Rocco once again. And the fact that, yeah, let's just say that it's plenty of bad blood between Elmo and Rocco. If you haven't seen the series, it's horrible. Other than that, folks, we also got for Story of the Year this year, the Liquid Jet sale. Yep, the Liquid Jet, meaning that Liquid Dev trying to sell a fighter jet. And trust me, folks, when we find out who wins the plane, we'll let you know. And finally, for the Indie Story of the Year thus far, would see none other than the Wu-Tang Clan once again having to go to court with the said farmer bro, as he calls himself, due to the fact that he made illegal copies of the said Once Upon a Time in Shaolin album. Really? I'm telling you, every single year it's going to be featured a part of the Indie Awards, which is absolutely ridiculous. And outside of that award, folks, for night one, you also have for the Stunt of the Year nominees thus far, none other than Vinewood on Fire, Slope Crashers, and Tricky Madness. And over to night two for the none other than the, and Carl and the Maestro handed me over the envelope over in the corner saying the Indie Cover Song of the Year, which would feature none other than Postmodern Jukebox with their song of Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer, Matt Glocky with their song of Disturbed doing It Wasn't Me by Shaggy, Frogleaf Studios with their said song of Funky Cold Medina, OHP with their metal version of The Sign by the Ace of Base. And for the Most Interesting Person of 2024 award, the nominees are as follows: Dead Meat, James, Zoran, and Chelsea, a part of the YouTube page of Dead Meat. Arian Cross, who may go home with his 6th award at the Indie Awards this year. All the standing members of New Legacy Inc., Chris Van Villay for the first time in the Indie Awards history being mentioned for this award. OB Katie Cat, the VTuber, and I do believe will be the first VTuber mentioned for this set award. And the second to follow in her footsteps would be none other than Iron Mouse. And the last award we're going to mention for today, folks, would see none other than the Match of the Year award, which would see for this year none other than Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk inside Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, Chad Gable versus Dragon Lee on an episode of Monday Night Raw, Sami Zayn versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 40, and finally, last but not least, none other than the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes going one-on-one against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 for the undisputed Universal Studios of Orlando, Florida's championship. And as a bit of a heads up for those listening at home to all of the nominees that have been listed, none of these are set in stone, and there may be more nominees added to the list as we march closer to the 11th annual 2024, or should I say 2025, Indie Awards that will be taking place as of February 22nd to the 23rd of 2025. I almost forgot what year it was, with Carl and the Maestro laughing over in the corner and holding up the awards over in the far off corner. And we can't wait to see who's going to go home with these set awards as of the Indie Awards for this year. Now join us next month when we try to read off the rest of the nominees if we have them all together prior to the Indie Awards. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again, and when we return, we'll be back with more Music Village that you can shake a stick at right after this. So don't wear your horns out in open traffic just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Music Village. And Carl and the Maestro told me during the break, and I completely forgot to mention, that the Indie Awards will be a 2-night extravaganza that will have 5 awards for each night. Yep, 5 awards per night that will be mentioned for the 22nd and the 23rd day of greatness for February. So I can't wait to tell you guys who won those set awards that hopefully you go out there and vote for, because it's up to you. The power's in your hands. But besides the power in the hands of the fans for those set awards and all the cool things that'll be featured for it, I think it's time for us to check out a couple of those cool games from a planet far away from here and from the Steam Machine alike for another edition of the Friday Night Greenlight. And the first game that we have up comes from the itch.io page of Bob 8 Alley, or Bob 8 Alley? Bob 8 Alley? You know, we'll go with the third one just in case with their set game of Doom, The Gallery Experience. Now, the reason why we said it like that, folks, is because this is a what-if scenario if they decided to have pictures at an exhibition featured in the world of Doom. And the fact that you're drinking wine and looking at pictures and not shooting monsters, not bad. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this game, because I got a feeling it's probably going to go in that direction, that you can get some form of weapon from inside of one of the pictures. And Carl and the Maestro said, what do you think, this is Super Mario 64? Why, yes, I do. I think if they go toward the pictures, try to ooh and ah it a little bit too much, they might be able to leap inside of it and enter a whole new world that might be more painful than the Doom universe could ever be. And according to Carl and the Maestro, no, that doesn't happen here. I got a feeling it does. I thought I saw something outside that window. And they said it was just rain. All right. Okay, then. But besides me being a little bit too paranoid for Carl and the Maestro's liking out of the gallery, the next game that we have up comes from the itch.io page of Your Go Game Creator with their set game of Greed and Dragons. Ooh. Ah. And Carl and the Maestro said we're not at the gallery anymore because this game automatically reminds me of the Dragon's Lair. Yep, definitely reminds me of the Dragon's Lair. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you get a weapon better than that sword and torch that you have to use for it, because if it couldn't take out that orc over in the corner swinging at you with an axe, or that giant oversized hand that looks to try to take you away, yeah, I got a feeling it's not going to do any better against an ogre or possibly a golem that might be lurking in here, or even a dragon. And Carl and the Maestro say you're being paranoid again, but at the same time, if a giant hand is reaching out for you inside of this dungeon, I got a feeling a dragon might blow some fire at you while you're making your way through there. So here's hoping for a better weapon than that sword and that said torch that you're using. Or better yet, a chance for you to use the shield to block your said failed attacks that they try to pull off on you. And Carl and Maestro said, well, I guess that'll help. Well, hopefully you can buy one with the gold you have on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, too. But besides me trying to be prepared for an adventure to some unknown cave, the next game that we have up comes from the itch.io page of Elno Alvian, or Elno Alvalian. We'll go with the second one just in case, with their said game of Backrooms Entry. And this game automatically reminds me of an episode of The Outer Limits. Yep, definitely reminds me of that. And here's hoping in the near future for this game that you can do something against that alien that's preventing you from finding the exit. That apparently is all the way down the hall with the word exit written on the top of it. Yeah, that's definitely something from The Outer Limits. So, Carla the Maestro said you can't get any form of weapons, you can only run from it. Well, here's hoping you can take one of those Scooby-Doo exit doors to get out of that situation before that thing gets any closer to you. And Carla the Maestro said all those doors are locked. What, you turned all the knobs before they got there and realized they were locked? And Carla the Maestro added their 2 cents in by saying, oh, we guessed that it's locked. Well, yeah, and I guess you're finished. Because if that first door on the left ain't locked, I'm going for it. And if it is, here's hoping you can get a key for it. But at the same time, if you're being chased by a giant alien, I highly doubt that's going to be any good. You know what? Before we go into any form of thing that I've got a feeling is going to happen to us, to that giant alien Markland beast that's going to chase us down the hallway and trying to find a way out of it, the next game that we have up comes from the developers Cat Tire Game Studios with their set game of Mystic Rest Stop. And this game automatically reminds me of, I would have to say a combination of not only urban legend, but a little hint of the movie Spore. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that not only you get a chance to defend yourself against whatever sort of Markland beast comes to this shop to try to take you out during your summer job, but maybe, just maybe, a chance to lock the door and prevent anybody from breaking in. Because I got a feeling that's exactly what's going to happen at around 3:38 in the morning. And Carl the Maestro asking me why 3:38 in the morning? Well, that's usually when the creepy things come out, just a couple of hours before dawn. Trust me, I should know. But besides me monitoring the cycles of creepy creatures and night traffic, the next game that we have up comes from the developers Night Drive Interactive with their set game of Claws. And this game automatically reminds me of, well, Outlast if it took place during Christmas. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this game that you could do something more than record your death from whatever sort of Markland beast that may be lurking in those woods that might sing you a Merry Christmas before they kill you. And Carl and the Maestro said it might be a reindeer that's out to help you. And I just showed them the picture of one of the screenshots of whatever sort of weird-looking reindeer demon that's walking by the cameras, and they just shut up immediately. See? Saved myself some trouble for an argument by just showing you a picture of something that's beyond belief with no fact or fiction behind it. And the next game that we have up, besides Markland Beast that celebrates the Christmas holidays, comes from the developers Causeway Studios with their set game of The Haunting of Joni Evers. What's up with all these haunted games this week? And Carl the Maestro shrugging his shoulders, but at the same time, this game automatically reminds me of, I would have to say any exorcism movie you could ever think of, with the exception of The Exorcist, because I don't see any floating beds or spinning heads or vomiting people in 8 different directions. So here's hoping in the near future that you have the number of some form of priest that can help you break the curse that's linked to this house and the family. And Carl the Maestro said they might know somebody, and no, Carl the Maestro, not Father Guido Sarducci. He is not available. I'm pretty sure he retired years ago. And they just put their hand back down. Of course. And the last but not least game that we have up for this week, besides us trying to figure out ways to handle demons, comes from the developers Monkey Games with their set game of Foods Across the Ocean. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, the name of the game is The Road to Harvest Foods from Across the Ocean. But either way you look at it, folks, this game automatically reminds me of a combination of not only Go West, but the Oregon Trail as well, too. Now, here's hoping in the near future that not only you get a chance to hire some form of farmer to help you bring in the crops in enough time to send it across the ocean, but a chance for you to have a good doctor on board too, because if you don't, there's a high possibility you might not make it across the sea. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, you also have to contend against pirates, so you might want to hope for a good crew too. Yeah, I do. I really do. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still making their way through the said planets via some form of rocket ship that can make its way to your home in less than 24 hours besides being in a faraway world, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Free Game Planet page of one man only known as freegameplanet.com to check out a whole bunch of cool, weird, awesome, and frightening games that are just out of this world. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still trying to make their way through the steam machine via a cargo ship, cargo plane, or even subterranean train that is currently running underneath your toes, then you can go ahead and head on over to the store.steampower page, only known as store.steampower.com, and click ever so lightly on that upcoming button while trying to avoid a left and right with that indie button to get a game that I got a feeling if the opportunity is right can lead directly into a knockout. Yeah, and not only knockout due to the fun, but knockout due to the prices too, because they're just as good, like a 1-2 combination during a heavyweight fight. Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it. And I guess with that said, folks, we might as well head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with yet another new DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories right after this. So don't go away just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you video gamers, welcome to yet another Heat Ran Iron Man 2-Man Perspective Edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Story. And with a title like that, we decided to go with the game none other than My Hero Ultra Rumble, the Heat Ran Adventures. You know what, I like that title, and Carl and Maestro give me the thumbs up for it as well too. And this will feature a 2-man perspective, folks, from not only from my perspective, but from our special guest, none other than King Valhalla, to kick things off. So without any further delay, I think it's time for us to make sure that our hero bands are adjusted correctly as we try to survive a melee in a school field or a battlefield like no other, as we both get ready to paint the picture.
And everybody, this is where I'm going to talk about where it was me and Agent while you were playing together, when it was just me and you and another player, I believe. Because me and Agent, we were playing ranks. We went to it wasn't the Calamity Zone. It was the Collapse Zones, because that's where we spawned in. So once we were, gathering some level up cards, we managed to kill some, few people. Just only one or two, whoever managed to spot one of them. We were just, getting some real good items, because we start off, with okay items. We managed to get the box, because usually those boxes is like a hornet's nest. Once you go there, you're gonna see 5 or 6 people that's around that box. So once it was me, and I was playing Shigaraki, and Agent was playing Dead Bever, someone was playing All Might, and we were trying our best, kill some enemy players, off the board. While Agent, was just burning everybody, I was just, using my decay, to get some people that was, trying to escape, our wrath around the playing field. So once we were just roaming around, Agent was getting tired of, a Frog Girl, or Kermit the Frog, how do you say so? Because apparently she kept on keep bringing people back, right back up to life, trying to continue the battle. And once Agent found her, all I hear was Agent saying, "I was waiting to cook your ass." When he throw a freaking... You threw an howitzer flame at her?
Yeah, that grenade toss that they would do. Yeah, I threw that at first, and when that didn't work, I immediately decided to go, as she would say, full Iron Man and just freaking try to burn her with the fire blast out of the chest, screaming as loud as I could, "I am Iron Man!"
Oh, man. So once Agent and I, managed to kill her, Agent did the same move again, and he managed to knock 2 people with that set of move. And I was even surprised myself. I was like, look at that, Agent knocking 2 people down with that move. So once Agent killed those 2, knocked those 2 people, I was trying to go and look for them. So, nobody tried to get revived up or anything else. So I managed to kill two extra people, and while we were continuing fighting on, I was in a killing spree. I kept on knocking random players, kept on killing them. Agent he could tell himself, because he even said, like, man, this is a massacre. Just seeing me, Agent, including our teammate, just going ham at random players left and right, breaking their armor, and seeing the leader, the kill feed of everybody kept on dying a lot.
Now, what King forgot to mention that not only this story took place approximately 4 months ago, but the fact that we did start at the collapse zone, which was true. Definitely true that we started off at the collapse zone. Now, the problem with us starting there was the fact that we were surrounded by 2 hawks, and I would immediately say we're stuck between 2 birds with no stones. And this was back when Hawks was the new flavor of the month for that game, where everybody was trying to pick them, everybody was trying to use them, and everybody was flying around just trying to get as many kills as possible with this character. Now, I decided to go with the collapse zone because I said it was the furthest away from the box, but when I noticed on the map that it was completely adjacent to the mountain zone where the box was located, and I said, yeah, there's some people that's gonna show up, and of course, the Hawks. But after we touched down, when King decided to be the character that allows them to throw these red meteorites at people, and we were also teamed up with a character known as All Might that was called Glitching O, which I said, I don't think that's a great name for someone to have if we're going to be in a match like this. But outside of that, decided to work alongside with them anyway, trying to get as many items as we could while Hawks flew away from us after All Might and King decided to beat the daylights out of them, not only throwing phaser beams at them like Space Ghost, but also doing that rock beam thing that he has that really did some damage. But after that happened, and while I was just looking around for people to rescue to try to get revival cards in case we got dropped, I would notice on the ground or right next to me while trying to get those said civilians that the box would appear right next to us. And I was already ready for combat when that happened, because I know whenever a box show up, everybody and their mother is going to come over there to try to take us out. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to stay over here, try to stay alive. Hopefully they can get the items. And before that thought could even cross my mind, King would already have the box open. And I'll say, oh, all right, scrambles. and just picked up as much as I would need, tried to level up my abilities, which one being a heat beam attack, another one being a grenade toss, as King mentioned before, and finally my bread and butter, I believe, the Iron Man ability that allows me to shoot a giant heat beam from my chest, where I would scream, "I am Iron Man," because I was a fan of Iron Man the animated series. Now, with that explanation out of the way, right when after we got those items out of that box, next thing I know, I noticed the zone started to get a little bit closer and a little less cool for comfort than most, and realized that all the people that we were trying to take out, including Hawks, who we did take out because King thought he was a clone, but he wasn't really a clone. He was a real person, even though twice ran away to avoid any sort of heat that we was going to give over to the Birdman. I would say, he's real, he's real, he's real. Reminding me of the Thing screaming he's real so many times at the guy who was on the ground, for me to just instantly throw a little bit of heat in that direction for King to finish him off, giving me my first kill, only for King to go out further to try to take out Froppy, for Froppy to fly all the way back to Brooklyn or wherever in the world she was hopping off to, for us to not worry about it for now. But once we got to this giant oversized fountain in the stage, in the center of the said stage itself, we would see her again, and not only that, but Toga, as well as another Hawks who would be on the battlefield. And while trying to avoid Hawks, while trying to avoid Froppy, I would face the wrath of Froppy, because I originally didn't know how to combat the girl, especially those who know how to fight with Froppy very well, which ultimately cost me more often than less. And it would here because I would get knocked on the ground, but at the same time, after I would get knocked out, Froppy would get knocked out right afterwards, because she would try to chase me out of the zone and kill me, and then All Might would take her out. But instead of finishing the job, All Might would grab me on his back and carry me out for me to scream, "No, no, no, don't do that, get her, finish her off, what are you doing, man, go back and finish the job." But little did I know, he did the right thing at the moment, because Froppy would get a lot worse than that further than the match move along, because I would use an all-heal potion to heal all of us back up to full health, where Froppy would go bouncing around next to me, and what King would say next would be true, because the second I saw Froppy bounce in my direction, I would immediately have that grenade toss blast ready for her, saying, "Oh, I was ready to cook you. We're gonna have cooked frog tonight." Threw that thing at her, boom, she would go down. Then, in a crazy frenzy over the next 3 minutes, it would just be King in Kill Central, where he usually resides in this game. Because next thing I know, I would see one person get dropped, Hawks. Then after Hawks, I would see Froppy. After Froppy, I would then see Toga. After Toga, I would even see Popeye the Sailor Man and several other characters being popped out of the scene, and with King and All Might just getting a litany list of kills, and by the end of it all, with King with 5 kills in his repertoire, but me with a very impressive 3, taking out several of the people with that heat ran like blast out of my chest. And then for King to get the final kill, taking out whoever in the world was over off in the far distance. I couldn't see who it was, but either way, it wasn't us. And we would walk out a winner, not using one revival card, and able to beat this clean without a single casualty, with the exception of yours truly. Which I would call a success no matter which way you look at it. And I guess with that said, folks, wraps it up for a very special Heat Ran Iron Man 2-man perspective of Battle Edition of the DJ Smokey's true video game story. With that, we'll be back with more right after this. So stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Music Village. And yeah, about that video game story, I know King told his side of the story, but I completely forgot after we did that episode of Work in Progress that he was talking about the same story I was going to talk about the second week of this month. And lo and behold, I decided to include both of them because I said, yeah, King told a good story, but I think from my perspective should be added in there as well too. Even though I didn't want to step on his toes, I was going to tell him when he heard it, yeah, no, I'm not stepping on your toes, man. I just remembered that it came from my perspective too. And completely forgot to mention and say, oh yeah, and this happened as well. And yeah, I knew it sounded familiar. Yeah. And Carl and Maestro said, next time, why don't you just go ahead and tell him? Well, unfortunately, we didn't know we had the footage, which might be uploaded to YouTube as well. Who knows? Just got to figure out a way how to pull that off. But besides trying to figure out ways to bring video game footage to your homes, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the indie for the weekend, which is me giving you guys local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And we kick things off with Friday, January 10th, and the first band that we have up is Paul, who's going to be performing at the Stanhope House in Stanhope, New Jersey at 7 p.m. according to Carl and the Maestro. Got the charts mixed up. But besides getting those charts mixed up, folks, next up we have none other than Aaron Parnell Brown, who's going to be performing alongside with the APB in the Riverside game at the Perkins Center for the Arts in Morristown, New Jersey at 7 p.m. Extra Rich in Class is going to be performing at the Par 440 Restaurant Lounge in Millburn, New Jersey at 7 p.m. You can also see Pam McCoy, who's going to be performing at the MJ Restaurant Bar and Grill in Long Branch, New Jersey at 7 p.m. Touch of Grey is going to be performing at the Mountain Creek in Vernon, New Jersey at 7 p.m. The Mike Montree Band is going to be performing at the MMB Trio at Asbury Hotel in Asbury Park, New Jersey at 7 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Friday night, you can see Gerald Esposito, who's going to be performing at the Villa Vittoria Restaurante in Brick, New Jersey at 7 p.m. A lot of 7 p.m. performances this week, too. Nice. And on Saturday, January 11th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The Mark Stinger Band with the Blues Brothers Tribute Band. It's all going to be performing at the Headliner Nightclub in Neptune City, New Jersey at 5 p.m. You can also see Kevin McGowan, who's going to be performing at the Headliner in Neptune, New Jersey at 6 p.m. Dave Fields is going to be performing at the Lorry's Lakeside in North Brunswick Township, New Jersey at 8 p.m. Paul Maritano is going to be performing at the Stakeouts in Buena, New Jersey at 8 p.m. Mike Garanja with the Coots, 08 with Sharp Edge. Force Habit, folks. It's going to be performing at the Crohn's Tavern in Mountainside, New Jersey at 8:30 p.m. Pam McCoy is going to be performing at the Headliner in Neptune, New Jersey at 8:30 p.m. The Random Test Reggae Band is going to be performing at the Jammin's Food and Drink in Red Bank, New Jersey at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Saturday night, you can see Whiskey Crossing, who's going to be performing at the Rockaway River Bar in Rockaway, New Jersey at 9:30 p.m. And on Sunday, January 12th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. Jim Sloan and Friends is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 a.m. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, it's 11:30 a.m. where the music is. The breakfast and doors open at around 7. All right? You can also see Mike McDevitt, who's going to be performing at The Flash in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania at 5 p.m. Grams and Krieger, along with Danny Krieger, who's all going to be performing at the Monterey Court Studios, Galleries, and Cafe in Tucson, Arizona at 6 p.m. Bonginator with Frog Mallet. Nice band names. It's both going to be performing at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, California at 7 p.m. Amy LaFleur and Will Sexton is both going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. You can also see Jazzville, who's going to be performing at the White Horse Black Mountain in Black Mountain, North Carolina at 7 p.m. Andrew Blayton is going to be performing at the Pody's Roadhouse in Spicewood, Texas at 7 p.m. T2 is going to be performing at the Club Los Globos in Los Angeles, California at 8 p.m. Microwave, nice band name, is going to be performing at the Club Los Globos in Los Angeles, California at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Sunday night, and apparently according to Carl and the Maestro, it is the same band we mentioned before, which is Microwave, who's going to be performing at the Club Los Globos in Los Angeles, California at 8 p.m. And on Monday, January 13th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Jewel and the Chrome Wheels Band is going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas at 3 p.m. Sky Covington Live is going to be performing at the Aretha's Jazz Cafe in Detroit, Michigan at 6 p.m. Jess Richmond is going to be performing at the Little Bar Restaurant in Goodland, Florida at 6:30 p.m. Pitbull is going to be performing at the Blues Bar venue in Phoenix, Arizona at 7 p.m. You can also see Zach Johnson, who's going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas at 7 p.m. Starman, the David Bowie tribute band, is going to be performing at the City Winery in New York, New York at 7:30 p.m. Open Mic Monday is going to be performing at the Mr. Peabody's in Encinitas, California at 8:30 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Monday night and for all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see none other than Danny Keene, who's going to be performing at the Bitter End in New York, New York at 10 p.m. If you guys want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast, and trust me folks, there were a lot of them, you can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, they're worth the listen. Like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. I guess with that said, we might as well head back to that music and continue to listen into these Diamonds in the Rough. Only here, right here, on Music Village. So don't get lost in that evening traffic just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the afternoon/evening show that is helping you make your way through rush hour traffic, only known as Music Village. Now, according to Carla the Maestro, currently traffic seems to be pretty calm despite a whole bunch of people telling us that a snowstorm was going to take place later on tonight. But at the same time, with them saying it may be anywhere between 1 to 4 inches, I don't know. But I still believe my prediction of a snowstorm happening of epic proportions somewhere after the Super Bowl or before it, it's definitely going to happen. My predicto ball is still spinning over in the corner with Carla the Maestro spinning it. Knock it off. That thing cost me $300. Knock it off, man. Knock it off. But besides Carla the Maestro spinning an expensive crystal ball around on the ground, still, despite my warnings, I'm looking at my watch right now. Oh, it's just about that time. It's the witching hour, which means it's time for us to be brought up to speed with news stories from this week from, you guessed it, all around the world. In our first news story, and in sad news from the world of television, Britt Allcroft, the original creator of not only Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, or what it was originally called when it first debuted, Shining Time Station, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 81 years old. Now, I, for one, grew up with this show so much. A very heavy part of my childhood with how much I love trains to this very day originally came from this show and from the model train sets I would get from family members dating all the way back to my early childhood. So yeah, seeing the fact that this show had a name change and several other changes along the way, including the actual conductor that was changed, who I'm pretty sure that conductor was, and according to Carlin the Maestro, it was George Carlin, who was the original Mr. Conductor, who was a part of the show. But yeah, an awesome show that I used to watch when I was a kid, and we here at Music Village would like to say, on behalf of Britt, may your work live on forever, and may you forever rest in peace. And thank you for all the memories of all the cool trains as a kid. It really did help out in life. And in other news, and more or less news from Foot the Bill, because for you fans who always wondered if the man who was behind Seven could truly foot the bill, well, we find out this week. And the reason why is because Kitten Arcader would get on to try to find out if John Doe can afford Seven. And with how many things he was able to buy in 95, I got a feeling that's going to probably cost him upwards of, what, $50,000, $60,000? And apparently Carla and my show saying a little bit more than that, and you're probably right. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out if John Doe could truly foot the bill with yet another John outside of a Kramer he's used to talking about, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Kitten Arcader to check it out for yourself. And here's hoping in the near future he can do a foot the bill for the usual suspects. But then again, that was Kaiser Sose, not a John. Never mind. And in other news, or more or less ghost hunting news, for you fans out there who wondered what was the next stop on the said haunted hotel tour for Scarlett, Shotzi, and Cross, well, it would be none other than the Mizpah Hotel in Tonopah, Nevada, where I got a feeling things got really serious during this said moment in haunting history, according to Carl and the Maestro, that really did creep out Cross a little bit. Yikes! And I got a feeling may have involved aliens too. I could be wrong. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out what is going to happen in part 2 of their 3-part series of hauntings around the world, then you can go ahead and check it out on the YouTube page of one man only known as Scarlett and Shotzi to check it out for yourselves. Or 2 girls, like we usually say. Right. And in other news, and more or less news for you visionaries out there, revolutionaries out there, well, I'm getting to it, folks, because it's none other than Seth Rollins, being interviewed by Chris Van Vliet. Nice! Not only talking about The Shield, talking about his rivalry with CM Punk, even talking about the cash-in of the century that he would be able to have at WrestleMania 31, amongst other cool things that I didn't even know about, especially with The Shield. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out that cool interview that Chris Van Vliet would be able to have with Seth Rollins and how big his closet is with all those crazy outfits, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Chris Van Vliet to check it out for yourselves. And I got a feeling in the near future he has to have Triple H on there. Hopefully. No, he's not too busy trying to run the ins and out of the company. And I guess with all those regular news stories out of the way for this week, folks, you guys at home know what time it is. No, Carl into my show, it's not time for us to dig out that old model train set. We'll do that later. It's time for us to go into yet another edition of... And, you know, since we're getting through the first full week of the year, we gotta do this right. Hold on. I think we got it. Okay, let's do this. Video See, we had to warm up into it. Thank goodness we did. We might have pulled something. And in our first news story, and an exciting news for you Monster Hunter fans out there from around the world, because it's been announced as of this past week, why yes, there will be another open beta for this game for next month. And seeing the fact that a lot of people are really chomping at the bit for this game, unlike the first open beta test that they would have, this one will not require a PS Plus subscription for you to join. Nice! And I, for one, who am already excited for the game and what sort of Dr. Frankenstein poison-like weapons I could use, or what sort of cool hunting horn powers I'm going to be able to get to fight whatever sort of cool monsters I may or may not have seen in the past Monster Hunter games, am really looking forward to this cool upcoming test. And one of the new creatures that are going to be back, folks, for the hunt is going to be a Gypectros. Or Pecros? We don't know how to say the monster right, but either way you look at it, folks, it would be one of the monsters featured in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. And something that I was really hoping not to face off again. And according to a lot of people, they think that in the future that Fatalis might be included in this as well. The same monster that got me to stop playing this game for well over 13 years. Which I hope not. I hope not. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out more footage and other things to whet your appetite prior to the open beta, or even when this game decides to make its way to your systems by the end of February, then you can go ahead and head on over to the said Twitter page of one man only known as Monster Hunter to check it out for yourself. And as a bit of a heads up, this said open beta test will begin as of February 6th through the 9th, and then we'll pick up again on February 13th all the way through the 16th, and it will begin and end at around 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on each of these days. And it will support cross-platform play between PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Not bad. Not bad at all. And in other news of the video game variety, and for you fans out there who always wanted to see the Outrunners play some old school games, well, I have some good news for you. Because Maxim Models or XM or MXM, I'm getting them confused with another group, decided to bring the Bronami Code back once again, and this time would see the Outrunners playing some Legends of Wrestling. Not bad. An old school game for an old school tag team of the 80s. And seeing the fact that they had so much fun during the show, I can only imagine who else that he said MXM is going to have up next for the Bronami Code. That I got a feeling is starting to become a hit. That's me. And if you guys want to go ahead and see the Outrunners play some old school Legends of Wrestling, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as AEW Games to check it out for yourself. And in other video game news that I almost screwed up, but in Grand Theft Auto Online news, for you fans out there looking for a brand new vehicle and weapon to celebrate the week with, well, I have some good news for you because it's been announced as of this week. Well, you have a brand new vehicle and weapon to look forward to. Not only you get a chance to ride out with the brand new Rapid Firebolt ASP, which may or may not have been featured in the Fast and the Furious for $1,894,500, or according to Carl and the Maestro, just a simpler price of just about well over $1.9 million. But also you get a chance to go home with the L. Strickler military rifle for a whopping total of $590,750. Not bad. But alongside with that, folks, for you Transform race fans out there, you can go home with a bonus $100,000 if you're able to create a job with the creator. And alongside with that, for the priority file for this week, the Project Breakaway file is up for grabs to get double the amount of money for this week for that said breakout file, which is not half bad. And alongside with that, the podium vehicle for this week is the classy Impala LX, which goes out for a total of $1.4 million if you're able to win it off the wheel for this week. Save yourself some coin. And alongside with it, for you fans out there who always wanted the Vapid Cara 4X4, you can get it for winning an LS car meet race in the top 3 placements for the next 2 days in a row to go home with that said vehicle. And before I forget, On the test ride for this week, you can also test out the Vapid Firebolt ASP. Not bad. And for the vehicles that are available on sale for this week, and according to Carl and the Maestro, several of them, so that's very helpful, which would not only see none other than the Carl Raiden, that is currently 30% off, or the Coil Raiden, thank you for the correction, Carl and the Maestro, the Classy Tulip M100, the Classy Walton L35, the Dinka Vito Modern, even the Karen Calcio GTF, the Pegassi Reaper, the Pegassi Tampa, the Panam Le Corset, and I know I butchered the name of that card, the bejesus and back, and even none other than the Tundra Panthre, as well as the Western Company Bertha plane. Yes, that's the plane, Carl and the Maestro. That is all 30% off. And for 50% off this week, the Benefactor XLS and the Dubachi Massaro, which won me many a races back in the day. Half off for you to win races at home yourselves. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the complete list of things that are still on sale and still all in the world of Rockstar, then you can head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, to check out all of those cool deals for yourselves. And I guess with that said, folks, for this week and the first full week of the quarter of a century, you have all been officially brought up. And yes, I know, Carl and the Maestro, I'm still trying to get down with the groove, and they apparently put a headband on my head to make sure I can. Watch this. All right, we got it. We got it. All right, that's enough of that. Because you've been brought up to speed. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Music Village for this week, right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, seeing the fact that the streetlights are on and the evening traffic is really starting to run in here, we might as well follow the even flow of traffic and make our way out of here and bring Music Village for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of this afternoon or evening delight we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag MusicVillage549. And yes, Carl and the Maestro, I know the traffic really started to pick up at around 5:49, and that's the reason why in the world we tried to rush here, but, you know, hey, traffic. And if you guys want to figure out all the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this year of the fist, like traffic that we always fight with in the afternoon to a 12-round knockout, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the fans out there, for listening in to a very special afternoon/evening traffic fighting edition of Music Village. If you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Mr. Conductor, a part of the Shining Time station just before he was about to tell a story. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and they're wearing the Mr. Conductor outfit. Where'd you find that? Apparently the internet, folks. The internet. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys, and we can't wait to hear what sort of cool music you're able to provide to a classic children's show that will hopefully stand the test of time. And why? Because we believe you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of people's music that was featured during a show, but not, well, technically for children, according to Carl and the Maestro, they said, yeah, this is technically a children's show of sorts. We would like to thank our musical guest, none other than Tekno AXE, with his said song of Basic Metal 4 that was featured during a very special two-man perspective of Heat Edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. We would also like to thank none other than Tekno AXE, or should we say, apparently Carl and the Maestro raising their hand over in the corner saying, thank us, thank us. Well, thank you for the song that we're currently wrapping things up with, none other than the Blue Collar Jam session that is currently being featured during the outro as this show wraps up for this week's edition of Music Village. As always, guys, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And finally, last but not least, outside of thanking King Valhalla for being a part of this week's DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories, we would also like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for delivering all those sweet, sweet video game hits and clips we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And like always, guys, keep them coming, because you never know what sort of show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, hint. Hint, hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, saying as always, very well, but first, I have to find my whistle. Ah, there we go. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for a very special mid-month milestone edition of Music Village. But until then, good night, everybody.